What's up? Listen, very important. If you ever want to dunk, really, you will never be able to dunk if you don't subscribe to this channel and like the video. You have to do both things. If you don't, never happen. Never be able to dunk, okay? I don't care if you're 7 foot with a 50-inch vertical, you'll miss every dunk if you don't like and subscribe. Really interesting study from 2005, Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. We're actually adding some of this into the new BoingVERT that's coming out soon. BoingVERT BFH, big effing hops, just like Elon Musk has a big effing rocket. So that's what we're doing, coming very soon. So the title of this paper, Use of an Overhead Goal Alters Vertical Jump Performance and Biomechanics, by a bunch of authors. Abstract. This study examined whether an extrinsic motivator, such as an overhead goal during a plyometric jump, may alter movement biomechanics. Our purpose was to examine the effects of an overhead goal on vertical jump height and lower extremity biomechanics during a drop vertical jump, and to compare the effects of female versus male athletes, 18 female, 17 male. Drop vertical jump was performed both with and without the use of an overhead goal. Greater vertical jump height, P equals 0.002, it means it's robust, and maximum takeoff external knee flexion moment were attained with the overhead goal versus no overhead goal. So overhead goal means you just have a goal that you're jumping to reach. Does that make sense? You probably got that, but in case you didn't, that's what it means. Does that improve your vertical jump height? Well, we found this in BoingVERT, that if you have something to jump for, while you're doing your reps, you jump higher and you jump better. So let's see what they found. Men had significantly greater vertical jump height, maximum takeoff vertical force, and maximum takeoff hip extensor moment compared with women. We know that, of course, men are better leapers compared to women most of the time. A significant gender times overhead goal interaction was also found for stance time and maximum ankle and knee flexion angles, with shorter stance times and lower angles in men during overhead goal time. These results indicate, here we go, that overhead goals may be incorporated during training and testing protocols to alter lower extremity biomechanics and can increase performance. So what we need to consider here is, how do you get the most out of every rep? And that's what this is telling you. Here's a funny story. There were these two guys. They weren't very good basketball players when I was growing up, but my God, they could jump. They could dunk. I mean, like, this is the mid-90s, so it's before YouTube. They could dunk like the professional dunkers. And I asked them one day, I said, how did you learn to jump so high? And it was a black kid and a white kid, and they'd grown up together. I don't think they were adopted, but for some reason they'd grown up in the same house. And they said, you know what we did? They later went to prison, sadly, but but anyways, together for doing some nefarious activities. Anyways, just a little side note. They said to me, we tried to hit our heads on the ceiling when we were kids. We tried to jump up and knock ourselves out. They weren't joking. They were rough and tumble guys. They would fight you at a drop of a hat. But they just were physical people. And they said, yeah, our ceilings were like 8 feet tall, 8.5 feet tall. And we tried to hit our heads on the ceiling every day. Every day. It was who could do it first. And then it was who was brave enough to do it hardest. And then it was who could do it the most times in a row. And then it was, let's do it 10, 12 times every day because we're seeing improvement. So crazy, right? That they had an overhead goal, and every time they jumped, they thought about that. And it increased their vertical jump. I don't know if you guys know T-Dub. T-Dub was a great jumper that we used to do shows with back in the day. Google T-Dub if you don't know T-Dub. And I asked him one time, I said, what's the difference between you and other great jumpers? And he said, you know, the difference between me and other great jumpers is every time since I was little, when I went out to jump, I jumped as hard as I possibly could, as high as I possibly could. I aimed for the highest possible point I could touch. And I remember we were backstage in Chicago at the United Center, and there was a 12-foot ceiling, 12 and a half foot, I think. No, 13 feet. It was 13 feet. And I had these professional dunkers back there. And T-Dub says, let's see who can touch it. And he jumped as high as he could, and he touched a 13-foot ceiling or something crazy. It was insane. Never seen a human being jump as high as T-Dub. None of the guys out now jump as high as T-Dub. I'm sorry. It's not even close. 5'9", just the best jumper I've ever seen. But he always had a goal. When you're doing your reps, if you're doing box jumps, hopefully you're doing the BoingVERT program. The new program is going to have a goal, overhead goals in it to increase your vertical jump. So if you're just going off on your own, which I don't recommend, get a recipe that actually works rather than just going, just saying, I'm going to do squats and jump a lot. You need to have the right recipe, which BoingVERT provides, But at the same time, you need to have an overhead goal every time you jump. It seems read just a little bit more and then we'll jump to the results. I'm going to read the introductory paragraph. The potential to achieve peak performance in sports competition requires an athlete to generate strength, speed, and power. The ability to demonstrate full body power in off-season testing is related to the level of play, collegiate Division 1, 2, or 3, and to whether or not an athlete makes the starting roster. There's some studies we're going to go into on here, on this channel, about how being explosive really helps elevate your game. Even adding 6 inches to your vertical makes you a much more attractive candidate for a college scholarship. Makes you if you're just a weekend warrior, the 6 inches you add will be, you're like, 6 inches, I'm not going to be dunking. But you know how many more moves you can do in the air, crazy layups you can do, how many more blocks you're going to get with just 6 inches? Anyways, athletic movements such as jumping and cutting are more powerful if an athlete initiates the movement with a counter movement or preparatory descent before the leap. All that means is you bend down and jump. There are certain tests where you go to a squat position, you stay there for a second, so you don't have the momentum of going down and up. You go down the squat and then you jump. You can test a vert like that too. But when you do a counter movement jump, you just go down and up. Down and up, that's all that means. They should call it the down and up movement. This plyometric action, in which the muscle is stretched before a rapid shortening to accelerate the body or limb, is termed stretch shortening cycle, SSC. The SSC muscle action increases power and performance when compared to pure concentric actions. The increased power output obtained from the SSC phenomenon likely increases force output during sports maneuvers. The drop vertical jump, DVJ, an exercise in which the athlete drops from a height before a maximum vertical jump, is often used to evaluate an athlete's ability to effectively use SSC during sports-related maneuvers. Now, we have this in the program, and we really work on this using things like altitude drops, where you drop from a height and then you land on your toes. Really works the tendons and the ligaments, making it stronger. It's very dangerous. You shouldn't do it on your own. You should only do a certain amount of reps every week. So make sure you're doing it under the guidance of our program, or you get some information elsewhere. The point being, when you do these types of activities, have you ever noticed when you're working out, as the program goes on, as the workout goes on, you're not jumping as high? But if you add an overhead goal to this, you maintain higher and higher jumps. You're getting more out of Let's jump down to practical applications. I love when they put this in. The study findings indicate that adding a goal both increased DVJ height and altered biomechanical measures in both men and women athletes. Vertical jump testing protocols for athletes should use an extrinsic motivator to encourage maximal effort during the task, just like my friends trying to hit their heads on the ceiling. When you do that, you get a little more out of each jump, and that the cumulative effect of that is a greater vert. They then go on to talk about the gender differences, which we're not too concerned with. So, again, in the new BoingVERT, we're going to have a lot of overhead goals incorporated into the program because it'll get more out of each rep. And what you can learn is when you're jumping, always have a target, always have a goal. And I think that says something about life. Always have a goal, always have a target. You can do more than you think if you're just wandering around aimlessly. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Go to BoingVERT.com and get the full program.